When I think Black Jesus, I think of two versions. I think like a physically Black Jesus with like darker skin and darker hair. But at the same time, I think of like a socially Black Jesus, because biblically Jesus was very much like the savior for oppressed people during his time, and he went up against the governing bodies at that time. So I think in that sense Jesus could also be considered Black as well. I think that Black Jesus is such a problematic notion in society because of hegemony and because of white supremacy and ideology behind some of that. And I'm not one to argue which way about what Jesus was racially, because it's Jesus. But that's what I think when I think Black Jesus.
Black Jesus makes me smile, but when I think of Black Jesus, I think of how Jesus is supposed to look, like the way like the Bible or whatever holy text say he has curly hair and he is of tan skin, and I think of like Jesus actually looking like me, and that makes me feel better as a believer that Jesus looked like me. Jesus could be my friend, or Jesus is going to be someone I identify with, and yeah.
Recording.
When I think about Black Jesus, I think about home, because I think about the images that I grew up surrounding religion when I was growing up, and kind of like the shows that we watched on TV. We always watched those Christmas specials, and Jesus always looked like me, right? But then as I got older, right, in like the mainstream media, you always see these representations of Jesus as white with blue eyes. But you know, I always remember asking my parents, like, that's not what we saw when we would go to our church or when we would look at movies, you know, like in our language. So I think Black Jesus is something important that we need to start talking about and really recognizing for how important Black Jesus is to us, and looking past these general representations that we have of Jesus as a white man with blue eyes, because the truth is that he wasn't. Black Jesus makes me think of home, of community, and a resistance to this image of Jesus that has perpetuated a lot of violence and a lot of white supremacy, and a lot of the erasure of people who look like me, of other people of color, of other movements, and just people who've been doing a lot of really amazing work in the community.